This episode of Badass Agents Podcast is brought to you by Jason Smith team at Nova Home Loans. Jason, a Navy veteran, has been recognized as one of the top 100 loan originators in the country. There is no task too big or too small for the Jason Smith team. Every client counts. For the best rates and great service, contact Jason at 480-227-6231 or visit novahomeloans.com. I personally stand by his service, and so do thousands of satisfied clients. That's Jason Smith at Nova Home Loans, NMLS number 210839. Why did I have to have it right now, especially during a workday? In the morning, first thing in the morning, why couldn't I have waited? So there's this guilt, and then there's this shame that comes from it. I have so much to do, now I don't feel like doing anything at all. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, AZ Araujo, and I just want to say good morning to everyone that's joined me again. I know we're in a special edition. We usually do this on a Monday, but because of my busy schedule, right? I think we all have busy schedules, but there are commitments that we still have to follow. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. But before we start, I want to say good morning to Rudy, Patrick, Claudia, Olivia, Amir, Lonnie. We have Jeanette on the call, Celia, Kimberly, Bonnie. And it's good to see you all here and taking some time away from your day to join me. We all have busy schedules. We all have many things to do. And, you know, at some point, you know, we lose that luster. We lose that motivation, right? And sometimes we do feel down. And that's today's topic is we all have our down days. And what I've realized here over the last month is that it's very important that we identify the triggers of what makes us feel down, you know, because feeling down, I think, is always on the back of things that we did or didn't do, of the things people said or didn't say, of the accomplishments we made or didn't make. It always comes back on, or maybe feeling too good, and it's just feeling down because things are going too good. And there's different triggers for all these points, but you know, before we start, I do want to tell you a little bit about what happened here over the last month. I've been gone every weekend this month. Every weekend in May. We are now on June 1st, but every weekend in May, I was completely out of town, and I was gone for 3 to 4 days each time. That's been a little bit of a tough transition for me because I'm used to having certain routines. And I look forward to following those routines. It makes me feel in line with certain things. It feels like I'm being accomplished. And it's when we get out of those routines that we allow other things to also be broken, right? If we can break our routine, then we can break our regimen, then we can break our workouts, then we can break, communication, then we can break from our work. I mean, it just kind of all falls in line. And I think that's why it's so important to follow a routine so that we can stay in our power. But, you know, there are going to be some things outside of our control or even vacations. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. And even this 3-day weekend or 4-day weekend that people took over Memorial, over the last 4 days celebrating Memorial Day, coming back on a Monday or a Tuesday, there's this intense feeling, right, of almost like feeling down for taking that much time off, or feeling down for not focusing on your business, feeling down because you lacked doing the things that you were supposed to do, or maybe you overindulged. And, you know, identifying, again, these behaviors is the first step in always progressing and always evolving. And that is the game here, right? Always evolving to someone better. Those of you that have seen great things in your business, and I see almost all of you that have excelled in your business, and it's because you've evolved from who you used to be. You are a better person today because of the decisions you made over time. You decided to do things a little different, and you decided not to be at the status quo, which is to remain the same. Now, in this competitive market, it's more important than ever to continue the evolution and not take the celebration too quickly. Not to sit back and say, finally, I've arrived, because things are evolving. I mean, the competition is evolving just as much as you are. And there's going to be this void and this mass exodus that I've been realizing here. Over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've noticed a lot of agents go from active to inactive, not only within our brokerage, but outside of it. Because what they did is they isolated themselves. They figured that they can't compete under these conditions, or they're unwilling to compete. They're unwilling to do the very things you are willing to do. Everyone on this call is doing much more than what they were doing before they got here. And there's other individuals, and that's why you have to praise yourself. You almost have to give yourself a sense of not celebrate to the point where you're stopping doing what you're supposed to do, but at least take appreciation for yourself. Because there's other individuals that have completely just isolated themselves to oblivion, where they're no longer relevant in this game. Yes, there might be 47,000 plus agents, but most of them are irrelevant because they made themselves that. They decided to just sit back and witness everyone else grow. They decided to sit back and not do the things that made them uncomfortable. And what advantage you have is that you wake up every day with a form of intention, which is so important, because lack of purpose, isolating yourselves, are the precipice, right? They are the starting point of why many individuals decide not to continue to grow. Okay, it is the step to actually having one of your down days. Okay, so when you isolate yourself, when you lack meaning or no intention, when you let that negative internal voice overwhelm you, those are the first steps to feeling down. When you don't exercise, when you have a poor diet, when you're stressed out of your mind, that's the first step on feeling down. And I'm going to go ahead and explain to you what happened to me last week. And, over these years of doing the work, one would think that, we are free from ever feeling certain ways or from completely shutting down our progression. Well, I ran into a huge episode last Tuesday. And it wasn't something that I felt very good about, but I got so many lessons, right? Because with every time that you're down, there's always a trigger. Okay, understand that when you're feeling down, there's a trigger. And that trigger can be caused by feeling too good, big obstacle. It can be caused by thoughts of not doing enough. It can be caused by somebody's comments. It can be caused by somebody else's issues. It can be caused by, like I said, poor diet, not exercising, not living up to your word. The very things that we decided that we were going to do, we kind of leave them at, as an option. So last week, all right, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It might have been Wednesday. It was our last day of our 30-day. And I decided to, have one of these cheat meals. And, I typically don't have my cheat meal during the week. I typically don't have it in the morning. But I was really, really looking forward to this, right? Because I'm part of this Do the Work challenge. And part of this is to be on a strict regimen. And I felt great. Listen, I felt better than ever. Did I really need that cheat meal? Not necessarily, but it's one of these things that Carla encourages it so that we don't feel like we're depriving ourselves. And I think it's very important. So I decided to go and have breakfast, and Carla joined me, but she did not have anything to eat. She just watched me eat, right? And I went and I had these pancakes, I had these biscuits, I had eggs, I had bacon, and it was so good. And I was like, well, I deserve this. I've gone 60 days now on this program. My body feels good. My mind feels great. I'm moving and making moves faster than I've ever have in my career. And there's a part of me that felt like I needed it on a Wednesday. Could I have waited until Saturday? Yeah, absolutely. Saturday evening and maybe enjoyed it with my entire family. But I was a little, I wanted it for myself. I was a little selfish. Well, after I ate, I experienced, feeling just overly full, overly indulged, right? And what I didn't realize is all the ramifications that comes from it. I came back to the office and I was very lethargic. And when you're in this place of not feeling your best, if you're not having positive thoughts, if you're not productive, if you're not moving, there's the opposite of that. Now you're going to have many negative thoughts. Now you're going to have less production, right? Which when you have less production, you start feeling guilty. And when you start feeling guilty, you start feeling shameful. And when you start feeling shameful, you start feeling angry for feeling guilty and shameful. Right? It's this vicious cycle that continues to morph on itself. And that's exactly where I was at. I was in my office and I started feeling guilty. Why? Why did I have it after a very effective, 60 days. Why did I have to have it right now, especially during a workday in the morning, first thing in the morning? Why couldn't I have waited? So there's this guilt, and then there's this shame that comes from it. I have so much to do. Now I don't feel like doing anything at all. And it evolved. And it sounds silly to some, right, that don't experience this. But I'm a firm believer that everybody does. Some of us are just more aware, right, of our behaviors and why we're not moving as fast as we should or producing the type of results that we should. So I sat in my office and I was non-productive. Like I just sat there in this stupor. And I started getting these negative feelings. I'm not doing enough for my business. I'm never going to grow. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if the economy does this? I start thinking, it starts really morphing from a small problem caused by my decision to all of a sudden a global issue, right? A global issue of overinflation to our economy. Like all these things that you hear on the news, all of a sudden, I recall them. My brain is like feeding me all these things because I'm in that level. I'm in that space. And our brains will always provide us and feed us our thoughts to wherever our space is at, wherever, we're top of mind of. So if I'm in a negative place, now I start creating these anxiety feelings, right? That these big issues that are outside of my control, and my brain is now picking all these things that is absorbed over the last few weeks, few months, few years. And now it's feeding it to me. So now all of a sudden, this one problem has become this world issue that I am now carrying on my shoulders. And it's making me feel less powerful, less confident. I'm worried, and I'm scared, right? To a point where I am scared. I was like, what the hell is going to happen? What the hell is going to go on? How am I going to adapt? What if this does happen? What if overinflation does occur, right? What if our industry is overrun by these technology companies? What if this company does grow beyond and all my agents decide to go? I mean, this is where our thoughts go, right? And it might be the same thing with you. Oh my God, I can't believe I lost another offer for my client. What if they decide to buy with another agent, right? That's where you start thinking. When you just sit in that place of regret, or if you sit in that place of shame. When you're in that pit, all these bigger issues start arising. And then we start convincing ourselves that we're not big enough to even overcome those problems. We put all our experiences, we put everything that we've ever accomplished on the back burner. We don't give ourselves enough credit. Now every problem is bigger than you are. So there I am sitting at my desk and I'm like, dude, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. Like I'm going through this emotional roller coaster. And I didn't realize it was being caused by food, by a poor diet. I'm at home now. I'm at home. And I did something that like, it's kind of hilarious. And I don't want to tell you that I am free from this, because this was my patterns back in the day. This was my patterns as I caused a lot of chaos in my own marriage and my own business. Anytime something big or major would happen, I would allow these thoughts to morph on themselves. I would have these world problems become my problems, and I would bear them on my shoulders, where I would shrink to something so small that couldn't rise up. So there I am, and I go, and next thing you know, I'm laying on my bed. I'm like, how in the hell did I end up here? Dude, like this happened last week. Like I'm bordering depression. I'm bordering all these thoughts. When just the day before, 24 hours before, I was on top of the world. Like I was feeling like the world was my oyster. Like there was nothing that could stop me. To a complete opposite, because I allowed my guilt and my shame and my anger to overwhelm me. To a point, again, I'm carrying the world's problems on my shoulders. There I am. And I'm like feeding myself more negativity. Feeding myself like, hey, I'll never be able to accomplish this or that. Sounds silly, but I don't know if you can relate to that. But it's almost comical, right? But at that moment, it's very serious. And I stayed there and I isolated myself, which made everything maybe a little worse, right? I had a lack of meaning, no intention. That negative internal voice just got bigger and bigger. That, my drive and everything that I've accomplished until then was kind of put on the back burner. And I was more stressed. I was more overwhelmed. And I sat there and I laid there in this pit. And, the only way to get out of these pits is to remind ourselves of how great we are, of what we've already accomplished and how far we've come. And I know it's easy, but when you're in this place where everything's kind of going downhill, right? We all know how to resolve this. We all know we just got to remind ourselves of our path. We all got to know that tomorrow's a new day, that the next hour is a new hour, right? We can change and we can pivot and we can move. We don't have to just sit there and take it. We can shift. And sometimes it takes so much courage because when you're getting beat down by these thoughts, it's hard to rise up. It's hard to put that fist up in the air and say, okay, I got this. And it was literally, I allowed this. Okay, I had my breakfast and I allowed this from, I would say, 10 o'clock all the way to 2 o'clock before I could regain my composure. And it was a battle. And I would, no, this, I shouldn't be feeling this way, right? And then feeling guilty about feeling a certain way. And I battled and I fought. And then I reminded myself, I used to be in this place often and it didn't create anything positive for me. In fact, it made things worse. Having courage to get up after feeling so overwhelmed by these thoughts and these feelings is a huge task and a huge order. But that in itself is something to celebrate. It's something to give yourself that sense of appreciation because it is an accomplishment. To be able to withstand and to beat up all those voices of all that negativity that's magnified tenfold, 100-fold, and for you to still rise up and make something of your day, that is something to be proud of. But sometimes we don't give ourselves that opportunity to see that that is a true accomplishment. Instead, we focus on even feeling that way to begin with. I want to focus on how I got my ass up. It might have been 2 o'clock, but I'm glad it wasn't 2 weeks. I'm glad it wasn't 2 months because that was my track record before. Because these voices of the present, these voices of the past and the future were just bullies. They were overwhelming me. They were beating me down. They were kicking me while I was down. And I couldn't handle it. I wasn't big enough. And I didn't give myself enough credit for all that I've been through, for all that I've accomplished. And it takes courage. And the focus is, man, I got my butt up. The odds are against you if you think about it. Because what we think and what we put in our minds is magnified. It's not just battling one demon, it's battling 1,000 demons. And having to slay them one by one is a huge task. But I've done it before, and I had to remind myself, I've done this before. And that was the first step of getting out of this and snapping out of it. And 1 o'clock pulls around, and finally 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I just make a decision. And I draw a line in the sand. I say, this is enough is enough. Enough is enough. I got up on the back of all those reminders, on the back of all those experiences, on the back of everything that I've ever experienced in my life and that I've overcome. And I rose up. Okay, I said enough is enough. took a very long way back to the office, but when I did, I realized that I'm greater than any problem, any obstacle, any issue, any thought, negative thought that comes my way. I have a track record. You have a track record. Look all the way back. Big obstacles, somehow you're still here. Big obstacles, somehow you resolved it. It wasn't as bad. You did something about it. So I get in and I just start doing. And just like one thought leads to another negative thought, one positive action leads to another positive action. Something small. I just needed to feel accomplished. I needed to build a momentum. I needed to put in the reps. You only build momentum by starting, by the small step. And that's exactly what I did. Next thing you know, I'm like on fire. This same day, what would normally take me a couple weeks or a couple months, the same day I completely shifted. Now, did it take me longer than I anticipated? Yeah, there was a chemical imbalance. I was chemically imbalanced by the crap that I put into my mouth. It all started with the poor diet. Could there have been other triggers? Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you this, that didn't make anything better. A sudden rush of sugar and refined goods, products, not even actual food, but products into my mouth. Products that are so engineered that you can't even pronounce the words of the ingredients that go into them. It's going to have an effect because those are all chemicals. I am going to be chemically imbalanced. And it messed with me in a massive way. I didn't realize how bad a poor diet can affect me. Especially when I'm trying to run shit, especially when I'm trying to grow things. It didn't help my cause, just like alcohol never helped my cause. It was fun during that time. It was fun. Everything I ate was fun during that time. I'm not saying I'm not going to have my cheat meals. What I'm saying is I'm gonna pay close attention of when I have them. And as opposed to having them at first thing in the morning, and what I'm surprised with is that most people have this on a daily. No wonder it's hard to get up. No wonder it's hard to feel accomplished. No wonder it feels hard to be intentional and purpose-driven. I only realize this because my diet's been super clean. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. What I'm saying is I realize what foods are good for me and what is not. That was a trigger for me. And it was a trigger that caused me many hours of production, but more than that, pain points that I didn't have to experience if I would have just stuck to certain routines. So we have to look at our behaviors and realize that maybe I don't have my business in order because I don't even have my own personal health in order. So maybe we have to prioritize things as opposed to put it all in business and then feeling upset, feeling down of the results we're not getting. And maybe we start focusing on the things that we're putting into our mouths because it has a huge impact on the productivity, on the thoughts. We're putting products into our mouth. We're putting chemicals. It was a trigger. It was a huge lesson for me. And again, could it have been other things on top of that? Yeah, but I'm telling you this, it didn't make anything better, just like alcohol. I realized how alcohol affected my productivity. It is a depressant. And although I wouldn't feel the effects of it until 2 to 3 days from the point where I would drink, it took me many years to realize that, hey, when I drink on a Saturday, it affects me on a Wednesday. It affects me on a Tuesday. I could still benefit from all the momentum I built up to Saturday when I drank and still build from it and still feel accomplished through Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, celebrate the fact that I don't have a hangover and that I'm still productive, but come Wednesday, I had no idea that I was in this pit because of the decisions I made on Saturday until I took that alcohol away. And I realized, wow, I don't have to battle these demons. Yes, we're all going to battle demons, but some of them are self-inflicted. These are the lessons we got to learn. So if there's no order in your marriage, if there's no order in your parenting, if there's no order in your business, maybe we have to scale it all the way back and say, is there order within ourselves? Is there discipline of taking care of the only body that's supposed to carry us through the rest of our lives? And for me, it made me aware. One, not to overindulge. I could have done with one pancake. I had 3. I could have done with 1 biscuits. I had 4. I could have had one slice of bacon. I had 6. Right? I could have done with a teaspoon of maple syrup. My whole plate was covered in it. But I'm more aware now. This depression, these feelings was caused by the self-infliction for me, if I look back, of what I was putting into my body. Not because of my production, not because I wasn't smart enough, which I would tell myself, I'm never going to compete because they're so much smarter. Not because of my environments, but because of what I was putting into my mouth, and then the thoughts that I allowed to morph from there. And I know this is true for many because being and seeing it from, the outside in with this do the work coaching that Carla is leading. It is such an amazing thing. And I think more and more people are becoming aware that a lot of our ills are caused by the things that we're putting into our mouths, that we're feeding our bodies. There's literally individuals that have given up their depression pills because now they feel good. They didn't realize they were battling this demon on a daily. They had to face this depression demon because it was self-inflicted by the foods and the chemicals they put into their bodies, the chemical reactions. Their body didn't like it and was reacting against it, which affects our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions. Regardless of how good you are in business, if you're not feeling good, it's only temporary. And I'm witnessing all these individuals grow confidence, grow a sense of purpose and drive because of the foods they're consuming. And little did I know, that was the first thing that we taught here all the way back since 2014, January 2014. Taking care of ourselves, first and foremost. If you look at our 12-week target book, it's about power. Power. What you feed into your body and how you exercise it. And this 30-day program has put a big light on it, that can change the entire dynamic of your world. If you show self-love, if you show self-discipline, it bleeds into every aspect of your life, including your business, including your relationships. I've seen this. I've been witness to it firsthand, not only here with AZ and Associates, but even magnified beyond that with this Do the Work challenge. Lives are changing because they're changing. And it is the biggest travesty that's put upon us as consumers in this market, not knowing what we put into our bodies, only to have to go back to big pharma, the pharmaceutical companies, to offset everything that was caused by the big corporations that fed us all this junk. And what a shame it is. But I'm proud of all those individuals that have given up their cholesterol, high blood pressure pills, that have given up their depression pills, because they realize if I treat my body like the temple that it is, positivity arises from that. We owe it to ourselves. Now, I'm not saying don't have a good, don't explore with foods, but it should be a reward at the end of of you investing into your own body. It should be a reward, not when you feel like it. Every meal, every day. No wonder depression's through the roof. No wonder, anxiety's through the roof. No wonder, all these things, because we lose that self-confidence, that self-control. And that was my experience just last week. Just that Wednesday. Now I know. I am going to have my cheat meals. Don't get me wrong. I will. But there are certain foods and certain times of the day that I refuse to do that, especially on the back of feeling great. I almost sabotaged myself. I felt so good. But I needed to learn this lesson. And I'm hoping all of you take a proactive approach of doing the right things for yourself. Because for many of you, it bleeds into the next generation. Because if you're having an issue with your weight, if you're having an issue with your depression, if you're having an issue with your anxiety, guess what your kids are going to do? All those behaviors are magnified by the next generation. And little do we know how it's all self-inflicted. You want to see huge gains in your business? Take care of yourself. If you want to feel fulfilled and purpose-driven, take care of yourself. We're in this for a long, healthy life, guys. Don't let the decisions of today degrade and belittle the quality of lifestyle 10, 15, 20 years from now. Begins today. But I feel good now. Many lessons. And I'm ready for the next phase. And I'm ready to really challenge my body and my business in ways that I've never pushed. And regardless of what's happening outside of you, you will always have the power within you to overcome. So thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. And of course, we all have our down days, but now it's about identifying what caused those down days. What are those triggers? And maybe it was all caused by the things that we were shoving into our mouths or consuming. Alcohol doesn't do good for me. Now I realize certain foods don't provide me an advantage. I want to feel good. I want to feel powerful. No more self-inflicted pain. Cindy, I relate hardcore. I think we all do, right? Some of us are just more open to those emotions, those feelings than others. I will never tell you that I lack all these things. And I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, where I'm at financially. The decisions that I've made with my investments, with this company, with the Do the Work coaching and consulting, I'm very proud of that. But I am human. And I could get shut down to the size of feeling meaningless. And that's huge, right? To a point where you feel worthless, meaningless. That sucks. Sucks to be in that place. It's painful. It's shameful. I love how you talk about what triggered you. Thanks for sharing. Sometimes to think about with Bravo's next 5 days off, day 30. Yeah, Jeanette, energetically I can feel you online, and I've been reading posts of individuals inspired by you. You guys are making a true difference. But more importantly is remembering how good it feels to feel good. It feels so good to feel so good. I mean, I think we have to refocus on that on a consistent basis. And, to be there, it's on the back of hard work. It's on the back of, the investment. I wanted to say sacrifice, but we talked about that. A sacrifice is just an investment of feeling good in the future. But just think about all that you decided not to indulge in. All those little good decisions have morphed into you just walking around powerfully. You and Chris connecting on another level. You rising up as leaders within your own spheres and outside of those spheres. And that came on a lot of hard work, many hours in the gym, many sacrifices of doing the easy thing, the tasty things, the fun things. I see that all the time. I see that within our industry, with brokerages. all these great events, everyone networking, having a good time. I see that. It's so tempting. But I've also played that. I've been there. It's short term. I promise you. Quality of life, my quality of life, your quality of life will supersede anything that seems fun and eventful. So thank you for that, Jeanette. One thing you taught me, good stuff, Andrea. Thank you. One thing you taught me long time ago: problems will come and go. It matters how long you stay in that negative place. Yeah, and that's the only thing. That's the biggest difference. And I'll wrap this up by saying this: that's the biggest difference of who I was to who I am. Is my ability to bounce back. Is my ability to have a cutoff point of how long I will allow myself to be in that negative space. Last Wednesday, it was longer than what I wanted. I wanted to snap out of it within 20 minutes. It didn't take 20 minutes. It didn't take an hour. It didn't take 2 hours. It took a few hours for me to finally have the courage to battle all those demons. It was overwhelming. I was battling an army, and it was me by myself. But then I realized I too have an army of experiences, an army of a track record of being able to overcome. And that's how I battled those demons. But again, thank you again for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. Let's be aware of our triggers, and we're all going to have our down days. But again, it's identifying where they stem from. That is your job. That is your duty. Guys, thank you again, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.